Welcome to Axiom Reporting in the Excel Client. Today, we will review the reports available in the Excel Client. There are other Axiom training videos on dashboards and reports in the web client. All dashboards should be viewed in the web client. Only reports can be viewed in either the web client or the Excel client. The key thing to remember when accessing Axiom's Excel client is to start in either the Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer browser. Otherwise, the Excel client will not launch. The Excel client also requires a utility installation on your computer. The Office of Finance Technology and Data Integrity can provide you with the link to access the download. If you do not have administrator rights on your computer, you may need to get IT support help to install. Viewing a report in the Excel client provides the ability to drill down to the transaction level. The Excel client also allows you to email reports. Let's open Axiom in the Microsoft Edge browser. Let's use the Quick Launch menu from our global navigation bar. This is the icon that looks like a rocket. Let's open our Excel client. At this point, if you get another prompt for your username and password, you may be in the wrong browser. So make sure you are in a Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer browser in order for the Excel client to launch. Our Axiom Excel client opens. Yours may look slightly different depending on your access. The Axiom ribbon displays across the top. The Axiom Explorer task pane appears on the left side of the screen. You can access reports from either the Reports icon on the Axiom ribbon or through the Reports library on the Axiom Explorer task pane. There are 7 reports in the General Ledger or GL Reports folder. Some of these reports have a similar web client version. Let's choose the Comparative Fund Balances report. This report compares fund balances at a point in time for the past 5 years. You'll notice that a new Excel tab opens for this report. Choose the Refresh button in the top middle of the Axiom ribbon. This is similar to the Filter panel in the Axiom web client. The Comparative Fund Balances report has 5 possible refresh variables: chart, fiscal year, period, org, and fund type filter, which is optional. Use the drop-downs to make selections. For the org variable, use the select filter to look up values. It is helpful to enter the chart first to search for orgs that begin with a certain number. Otherwise, a wildcard is assumed before and after the entered numbers. And the selections will show all options containing the numbers entered. There is currently an Axiom defect that lists the wrong title associated with roll-up orgs. So please choose the roll-up number desired and ignore the title until this defect is corrected. The checkbox beside the org or org roll-up must be selected for the value to return to the refresh variable screen. More than one org may be selected at a time. To view all orgs for Chart A, choose the highest roll-up available. Make your selection and choose OK. The fund type filter for this report is optional. If nothing is selected for fund type, then all fund types will be presented. However, you may select a specific group or groups of fund types. For instance, if you want to view research overhead funds, then check the box for research overhead. Once all your variables are entered, choose OK to refresh the report. The header of the report at the top left shows the refresh variables chosen. On the top right are special notes. It states prior year balances as of month end selected. If the fiscal period or month end selected is February, then all columns will show the February balances for that particular fiscal year. If the fiscal period selected is period 12, then all columns will show year-end balances for that fiscal year. If the current fiscal year is incomplete and period 12 is chosen, then the data for that fiscal year will be through the current information available. This report is grouped by fund type and shows headers and subtotals by group. There are two special columns across the top. Home org, this is the default org. If the default org is not populated and multiple orgs are used, we assigned a home org based on either the most often used or Dean's Office org. Home program, this is the default program. If the default program is not populated, we assigned a home program based on the most often used program. The reason we apply this approach of home org and home program is that each fund balance should only be owned by one group. The balance sheet or general ledger side of Banner does not track orgs or programs for assets, liabilities, and fund balances. The reports in the Axiom Excel client have a drill down capability. Double-click on a cell to bring up a new report in a tab called Drill Report. The total amount on the drill report should correspond to the cell in the original report. Two other important Excel features are Snapshot and Email on the Axiom ribbon. Snapshot creates another Excel tab or export of the same data in your report. Once in the snapshot, the drill down feature will not work. You must be in the original report to drill down. You may also want to make sure that the formula bar and headings are checked in your Axiom ribbon. Formula bar allows you to see the contents of a cell. Headings allows you to see cell references. You should then be able to save this snapshot for your own use and make calculations or modifications to the report. The second feature is Email. Email creates a duplicate Excel file of the report to email to others. The second report available is Comparative Revenues, Expenses, and Transfers report. This report is similar to two ePrint reports, Comparative Revenues, Expenses, and Transfers with Budget, and Comparative Revenues, Expenses, and Transfers month and year to date. This is one report with two different views. The first view that we'll cover is Budget, BGT. It's similar to the first ePrint report mentioned above, and it's also similar to Budget Status or FGI BDST form in Banner. The second view is Month to Date and Year to Date report MTD, similar to the second ePrint report I mentioned. Let's use the refresh button on our Axiom ribbon to define the refresh variables for this report. This report has 9 possible refresh variables. The first 5 refresh variables are required. Those are fiscal year, chart, month or period, fund, and org. The optional variables are account category, account code, program code, and activity code. Use the drop-downs to make selections, or use the select filter to look up variables and pick from a list. You can choose roll-ups or specific codes. A helpful tip is to use the chart first to search for variables that begin with a certain number. Otherwise, a wildcard is assumed before and after the entered numbers. The checkboxes in the pick list must be selected for values to return to the refresh variable screen. Once all your refresh variables are entered, choose OK to refresh the report. Our report has refreshed, so let's take a look. The top left header contains our refresh variables. Beside the variables are special notes. This note states that funds associated with a grant, contract, project, inception to date type funds are excluded. These are excluded since the report is viewing data on a fiscal year basis. To change the view of a report in the Excel client, choose Change View from the Axiom ribbon. As you can see here, both check boxes are marked for the budget and month-to-date, year-to-date view. If you scroll across, you can see both views are shown simultaneously. If we uncheck one of these boxes, then we just see either the budget view or the month-to-date view. The budget view shows columns for adjusted budget, year-to-date, encumbrances, and available balance for the prior year and for the current year. The month-to-date, year-to-date view shows columns comparing 1 month's activity for the prior year versus that same month's activity for the current year, with a dollar variance and a percent variance. Then the next columns compare year-to-date activity for the prior year versus the current year, with a dollar variance and a percent variance. Ignore this third report in the list called Drill Report. This is the report that opens when you double-click on a cell in one of the other reports. Let's look at the MultiYear Actuals with budget. This report is similar to the Budget Development Report provided by the Budget Office. It has 3 full-year columns to compare actuals, 2 columns for prior year-to-date actuals and current year-to-date actuals, and 2 columns for prior year permanent budget and current year permanent budget. This report is for Chart A only. Let's use our refresh button on our Axiom ribbon to define our refresh variables for this report. The MultiYear Actuals with Budget report has 5 possible variables: fiscal year, period, org, and fund type, which include education in general, unrestricted, restricted, and plant. These are your spendable fund types. And fund type filter, which is optional. Use the drop-downs and pick list to make your selections. Once all your variables are entered, choose OK to refresh the report. Notice the refresh variables listed in the top left of the header. Special notes are listed on the right side. This note states that Fund 11999 Net Position Reserve is excluded from the Education and General Funds. Ignore the permanent budget when restricted fund type is selected. This is because contract and grant funds follow an inception to date year instead of a fiscal year. The budget may not follow the actuals for these funds. The fourth report is Statement of Changes in Fund Balance by Fund Type. This report has columns for fund balance at the beginning of the fiscal year, revenues, expenditures, transfers, and balance at the end of the fiscal year or for the period that you chose. Let's make our refresh variable selections by going to the refresh button. There are 6 possible refresh variables: chart, fiscal year, period, org, fund types to include with the choices of all or sources and uses only for Chart A. These are just your spendable funds that are on your sources and uses reports. And fund type filter, which is optional. Use the drop downs and pick lists to make selections. Once all variables are entered, choose OK to refresh the report. Notice the refresh variables listed in the top left header. Special notes on the right include negative amounts indicate a credit. Credit fund balances are funds available. Debit or positive fund balances indicate deficits. This report also has a different view. To toggle the view, choose Change View on the Axiom ribbon. Choose the Encumbrances view, and the view now includes 2 extra columns for encumbrances and balance available out beside the balance end of year column. This report also has the 2 columns for home org and home program, like the first report we viewed for comparative fund balances. The next report to view in the Axiom Excel Client is the Sources and Uses with Fund Type Detail with Drill. Make sure you choose the one that looks like an Excel document and doesn't have -web out beside it. The one with web beside it is the actual web client report. The Sources and Uses report shows the spendable funds for a college, division, or org. There are 2 views for this report: a summary view and a fund type detail view. This is a Chart A only report. Let's choose our refresh variables by going to our refresh button on the Axiom ribbon. There are 4 possible refresh variables for this report: fiscal year, period, org, and include fund type details, yes or no. Use the drop downs and pick list to make selections. Once all the variables are entered, choose OK to refresh the report. Our refresh variables appear in the top left header. This report shows the sources for a particular college, division, or org chosen. Sources are budget dollars for E&G, revenues and recovery, less expenses and encumbrances, plus transfers in minus transfers out. Columns are broken into category for education in general. These are your operating funds, your tuition and fees and state appropriation dollars that are budgeted. These are funds 11,000 through 11,012 and 11,999. Unrestricted funds include designated operations, research overhead, internal grants, unrestricted endowment income, cost share, and auxiliary funds. The restricted column includes restricted contracts and grants, restricted gifts, and restricted endowment income funds. The plant column includes permanent R&R, renewal and replacement funds, and retirement of indebtedness funds. The last two columns are current year-to-date total and prior year-to-date total. This report has a separate view for fund types. If you chose Include Fund Type Details Yes in your filter, then you can change the view. So on the Axiom ribbon, choose Change View and Detail. This will show the fund type columns that make up the unrestricted, restricted, plant, and E&G categories. This report also has the ability to drill down to the transaction level by double-clicking in a cell. The total for the detail should match the total on the cell that you double-clicked on to drill down. The final report in the GL Reports folder is Transaction Detail. This may be useful when looking for specific transactions. Let's use our refresh button on our Axiom ribbon to enter some refresh variables. Try to narrow down your search as much as possible. This report can pull any account, general ledger accounts like your balance sheet accounts, or operating ledger, your income statement type accounts. Since this is a detailed report, drill down is not available. The columns on this report include concur reference number along with the document code. You may also have access to a report, an HR report called Current Status. This report is similar to the Current Status report in ePrint. Note that the current status is as of a point in time and has the most current information as of today. The HR report has some security around it by org or org roll-up. Other reports may be added in the future, but you can see the basic navigation for reports is the same. Please check out our other training videos for Axiom. And if you have any questions about Axiom, please contact the Office of Finance, Technology, and Data Integrity. Thank you.